Hi, my name is Rosalinda Garcia, and I'm here to present the Matchmaker Inclusive Design Curriculum, a faculty-enabling curriculum to teach inclusive design throughout undergraduate CS. I want to start by addressing the question, why teach inclusive design? Well, here's the problem. Although researchers have begun including social issues in CS education, recent research indicates that students struggle to apply what they have learned, even if they have understanding and awareness. To begin addressing this problem, we present a new approach to integrate inclusive design across the 4-year CS undergraduate curriculum. Let's look at our approach in contrast to a common approach to adding inclusive design content to CS. Both approaches start with inclusive faculty who know why it's important to include social issues in CS, represented here as smiley faces. In our approach, these faculty also see the value in collaborating amongst themselves to create a larger integration of inclusive design, indicated by the blue lines between the faces. At the next level, these inclusive faculty create inclusive courses with CS-related social issues, shown by these black boxes. In the common approach, these courses are not connected. However, in our approach, inclusive content isn't isolated, but instead builds and accumulates through the full degree program, indicated by the blue arrows from one box to the next. At the third level are inclusive students who value inclusivity. But in our approach, these students have learned actionable inclusive design skills through the pieces embedded in their courses. Finally, students' ability to design inclusively also opens the door for two final pieces in our approach: the creation of inclusive software, which then contributes to equity for users. But did our approach actually work? To answer this, let's take a quick look at some results from our 2023 TOAST paper. On the screen is a bar chart showing the rates of students' incomplete, fail, and withdraw grades, where lower is better. In green are targeted courses that were engaged in our approach, and in yellow are non-targeted courses in the same degree program but not part of our approach. The chart shows that both targeted and non-targeted courses had lower rates post-inclusive design. And the black brackets between the bars show that while the targeted courses previously had higher rates than the non-targeted, the gap closed after the addition of inclusive design. So the results of our approach included improved course grades for students with fewer incomplete, fail, and withdraw grades, as well as more A's and B's. Students also reported climate improvements, including better teamwork and improved ratings for instructor ability to create an inclusive environment. Now, these results are great, but how did we get there? The answer to this how question is what we call the Matchmaker Curriculum. The Matchmaker Curriculum provides a buffet of inclusive design elements to faculty and offers potential matches. In this process, faculty decide if they want to use the Matchmaker Curriculum, which elements to choose, and how to embed them into their own courses. In this way, the Matchmaker Curriculum is like a dating app. To illustrate this concept, let's pretend that this person on the screen teaches Intro to CS. Maybe one element from the inclusive design buffet is to have students use a full inclusive design method on their course projects. Well, that doesn't make sense for this person's Intro CS course. Maybe there's no course project. Or maybe they teach a course without graphical user interfaces, instead using only command line prompts. The Matchmaker allows them to metaphorically swipe left and reject this element. So the next element might be asking students to make their command line prompts work for a user persona called Abby. This makes a lot more sense for this person's course. So they swipe right and match with this element of inclusive design. But who's this Abby persona that I mentioned? Well, the inclusive design method we leveraged for our approach was the Gender Inclusiveness Magnifier, or GenderMag method. GenderMag is an evidence-based method that uses 3 personas: Abby, Pat, and Tim. Each of these personas has a set of 5 facets that capture the way people problem solve when using technology. These facets are attitude towards risk, computer self-efficacy, motivations, information processing style, and learning by process versus by tinkering. Abby has a value for each of these 5 facets. For example, Abby's learning style is by process, meaning they like things like tutorials and walkthroughs. Now remember that inclusive design buffet? Another element in that buffet was an activity where students identified their facet values. In this activity, one student responded that when coding, they didn't look for a process. Instead, they said, "I head right into the code and tinker with it." That would make them more like Tim for this facet, because Tim learns by tinkering. So Abby and Tim sit on opposite ends of the facet spectrum, while Pat provides a third set of values that lie in the middle. Before I jump into the curriculum itself, I'm going to give a brief overview of our study methods. We conducted a field study with 18 faculty members, including 15 non-HCI faculty, and these faculty were teaching many of the CS courses across the degree program. Our study had 2 research questions. RQ1, will CS faculty want to embed inclusive design elements into their courses? And RQ2, can we equip even non-HCI faculty with the skills needed to embed inclusive design elements into their courses? With those in mind, I'll move on to the curriculum itself. The Matchmaker Curriculum has 4 curriculum elements. Number 1, getting faculty motivated. Number 2, teaching faculty inclusive design content. Number 3, guiding faculty through embedding inclusive design concepts into their courses. And number 4, developing faculty's pedagogical content knowledge, or knowledge of how to teach this specific inclusive design. Element 1 answered RQ1, will they want to embed inclusive design? While elements 2 through 4 answered RQ2, can we equip them with the necessary skills? For the sake of time, I'm going to focus only on elements 1 and 3. The curriculum begins with element 1, motivating the faculty. This element was important for getting faculty to engage with and stay engaged with the approach. Within this element, we introduced faculty to the big picture, which provided a high-level view of how their various courses would fit together with inclusive design building throughout. We also explained the costs and benefits for both faculty and their students. For faculty, we explained that the approach was minimally invasive, and they would only be changing small pieces of their courses. We also emphasized that while there would be changes and collaboration, faculty were in full control, and as I explained earlier, they could accept or reject elements as they saw fit. We also presented them with related student data from Lita et al. 2021, in which faculty of 2 online courses taught elements of GenderMag. For example, we presented this quote from a student in that study that illustrated improved teamwork post-GenderMag. They said, "My teammates understand that we tend to work differently, and thus we were less demanding on each other." Moving on to element 3, recall that this element contributed to answering RQ2. Can we equip faculty with the necessary skills? In element 3, faculty began embedding their chosen inclusive design elements into their own courses however they wanted. To help them in this element, we provided examples and reusable content ideas. For example, on the screen is a piece of a reusable handout with descriptions of the persona's facet values. Faculty also engaged in collaborative material creation, working in small groups with peers teaching similar courses. On the screen is an example where 2 faculty members were collaborating on an assignment. You don't need to read this, but notice that P10's contributions are shown in purple and P11's are shown in teal. While they were collaborating, facilitators checked in with each of the groups to provide coaching. Faculty also submitted their updated course materials to facilitators for iterative feedback. This feedback included suggestions for clarifications and ways to avoid too much overlap or too many gaps between courses. For example, One facilitator told two faculty members who were collaborating on an object-oriented design assignment that the gender mag survey wasn't needed for their assignment, as students had already assessed themselves and their facets. So what embeddings did these faculty actually create for their students? Well, faculty embedded inclusive design into their courses at 3 levels. Early level for first and second year courses, mid-level for second and third year courses, and upper level for third and fourth year courses. The early level embeddings introduced a few simple concepts to students, like the facet values or the personas. In the example on the screen, an Intro CS faculty member ended a lab by asking students, in terms of information processing and learning style facets, which persona their approach to the lab was most like, and they provided descriptions of each persona's approach. Mid-level embeddings then had students begin to apply inclusive design in informal or guided ways. For example, this is a second-year web development assignment where students are instructed to assume Abby was their user, and then are asked, where would Abby click? Would Abby accomplish the goal? Why or why not? Finally, at the upper level, students used the full gender mag method on software projects they designed. For example, in Capstone, a faculty member included the use of gender mag into students' weekly project reports, but left the decision of how to use it to the students themselves. Now, coming back to the RQs to conclude, through Curriculum Element 1, we were able to answer RQ1. Will faculty want to embed inclusive design into their courses? The answer was yes. 88% of faculty who experienced the Matchmaker Curriculum succeeded in embedding inclusive design into their own courses, covering 13 CS courses across the 4-year CS program. Elements 2 through 4 answered RQ2. Can we equip even non-HCI faculty with the skills necessary to succeed? Again, the answer was yes. As I discussed at the beginning, faculty succeeded well enough to see improved student grades and better reports for climate. Based on our success with the Matchmaker Curriculum, we hope that it will be able to help us and others achieve the small goal of using HCI to change the world. Thank you.